The shooting incident in downtown Washington, D.C., near the White House on November 26, 2025, has left 2 National Guard members critically wounded, according to reports from ABC News, Times Now News, and DVIDS. The event, which saw a massive police and emergency response, has immediately become a top trending story, sparking widespread concern and intensifying political debate over the role of military personnel in domestic security. A suspect was taken into custody shortly after the shooting, though details regarding identity and motive remain under investigation, as reported by Times Now News. The injured soldiers were rushed to hospitals in critical condition, prompting immediate closures of key intersections and the deployment of additional security forces by D.C. police. This critical incident unfolds during a period of heightened security in the nation's capital, with National Guard troops still deployed following a recent national emergency declaration. The incident's proximity to the White House and the involvement of military personnel underscore the gravity of the situation, raising urgent questions about public safety and the effectiveness of current security measures. The rapid response from D.C. police and emergency medical personnel highlights the immediate threat perceived in the heart of the Capitol, as witnesses described seeing National Guard members receiving first aid on the scene before being transported for critical care. The details emerging from the November 26 shooting paint a stark picture of the incident. At least 2 National Guard members were shot, with some reports indicating a possible third victim, according to multiple news outlets including ABC News and Times Now News. Both injured soldiers were transported to hospitals, where they remain in critical condition. A suspect has been apprehended and is currently in custody, though no further information about their identity or the motive behind the attack has been released by authorities. D.C. police swiftly cordoned off the area near the White House, closing key intersections to secure the scene and launch a full investigation. The immediate aftermath was characterized by a significant presence of law enforcement and emergency services. An ABC News witness recounted the chaotic scene, stating, "I see 2 National Guard members down and people are working on them." Immediate aftermath of the shooting where they were rendering first aid. Times Now News further corroborated the severity, reporting, "A suspect is in custody after 2 National Guard members were shot near the White House, leaving both critically wounded and hospitalized." This rapid and coordinated response underscores the high-stakes nature of security operations in the nation's capital, particularly when military personnel are involved. This shooting incident is inextricably linked to the controversial and ongoing deployment of National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. The presence of the Guard in the Capitol has been a politically charged issue, stemming from a national emergency declaration that recently concluded. Public interest in the situation is evident through trending search queries such as National Guard shot in D.C., White House shooting, and National Guard D.C., indicating a widespread desire for real-time updates and context. These queries reflect public anxiety regarding the status of the National Guard and the overall security situation near the White House. The continued deployment of the Guard has fueled a contentious debate over the appropriate extent of military involvement in domestic law enforcement, and has raised significant civil liberties concerns among critics. The timing of this shooting, occurring just days after the emergency declaration ended, has amplified public scrutiny and media coverage. This incident forces a re-evaluation of the necessity and implications of maintaining a military presence in a civilian policing role, especially in the nation's capital, a topic that has been a flashpoint for political discourse for months. The impact of the shooting extends deeply into political discourse and public perception. The White House's previous claim of victory over crime in D.C. is now under intense scrutiny following this violent incident. Critics, including D.C. officials, have argued that crime trends were already improving prior to the Guard's deployment, challenging the administration's narrative. The shooting has raised serious concerns about the safety of National Guard members themselves and the overall effectiveness of the current security posture in the Capitol. This event may prompt a comprehensive review of protocols governing military personnel in urban law enforcement roles. Furthermore, the deployment of the National Guard in D.C. has been a significant flashpoint for political debate, with critics warning of the militarization of civilian policing and potential abuses of power. This incident could intensify calls for reform or lead to further legal challenges regarding the legality and scope of such deployments. Public confidence in the government's ability to maintain order and protect both civilians and military personnel has been shaken, potentially undermining the administration's narrative about the success of its crime-fighting policies. The legal, military, and media implications of the National Guard shooting are far-reaching. The ongoing investigation and the suspect's custody are expected to lead to legal proceedings that will further highlight the complexities inherent in military involvement in domestic affairs. This is compounded by a recent federal judge's ruling that declared the National Guard deployment in D.C. unlawful, adding another layer of legal uncertainty to the situation. From a media perspective, the real-time coverage and witness videos have driven widespread attention and social media discussion, solidifying this as one of the top trending stories both nationally and internationally. The public's search queries reflect a clear demand for clarity, updates, and context surrounding the shooting and its broader implications. In conclusion, the shooting of National Guard members near the White House on November 26, 2025, serves as the primary catalyst for the current surge in public interest surrounding the National Guard. The incident has sparked widespread concern, intensified political debate, and raised critical questions about the appropriate role of the military in domestic security. With an ongoing investigation, a suspect in custody, and the continued presence of the National Guard in D.C., this story is poised to remain a central focus in the public and political spotlight for the foreseeable future.